Chaos surrounds us, constant notifications, endless demands, and a world that feels like it's spinning faster every day. But here's the thing, the chaos isn't the problem. It's how we react to it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What if the key to mastering your emotions in this whirlwind of a world isn't about controlling what happens to you, but how you respond to it? That's where Stoicism comes in, a philosophy forged in the fires of ancient challenges, yet startlingly relevant to the chaos we face today. In this video, we'll dive into 28 dynamic Stoic approaches to help you build emotional resilience, navigate uncertainty, and find calm in the storm. Whether it's dealing with stress, overcoming setbacks, or simply staying grounded, these timeless tools are here to empower you, ready to take control of your reactions and transform how you face life's challenges. Let's begin. How often do you find yourself stressing over things you can't change? That email you're waiting for, the traffic jam you're stuck in, or even the opinions others have about you sound familiar? Here's the truth, much of what keeps us up at night is completely outside our control. Stoicism offers a powerful tool to cut through this emotional noise, and it starts with the dichotomy of control. This principle, central to Stoic philosophy, teaches us to clearly separate what's within our power from what isn't. As Epictetus put it, some things are within our control and some things are not. If you focus on what you can't control, you'll only invite frustration. But if you focus on what you can, you'll find peace. Think about it. When you're at work, deadlines, budgets, or even your boss's mood might feel overwhelming. But what's actually in your control? Your effort, your attitude, and how you choose to respond to challenges. By shifting your focus to these areas, you reclaim your power and reduce the emotional weight of external pressures. Imagine walking into a meeting where everything feels chaotic. Instead of fixating on what's going wrong, you zero in on what you can do, your preparation, your calm demeanor, and your ability to adapt. That's the Stoic way. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one thing in your life right now that feels out of control? Maybe it's a relationship, a project, or even global events. Now, write down what you can influence about it. This simple exercise isn't just about awareness, it's about reclaiming your emotional agency. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free up energy to focus on what truly matters. And that's where real change begins. The ancient Stoic philosopher Seneca had a counterintuitive yet profoundly effective practice. He regularly imagined the worst-case scenarios life could throw at him. Why? Because he believed that by confronting these possibilities head-on, he could strip them of their power to overwhelm him. He once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This practice, known as negative visualization, isn't about dwelling on fear. It's about building mental resilience by preparing for life's uncertainties. Here's how it works. Instead of avoiding thoughts of potential hardships, you deliberately bring them to mind. Picture losing your job, facing a health scare, or even the end of a relationship. At first, this might feel unsettling, but the Stoics saw it as a way to train the mind. By visualizing these challenges, you reduce their emotional impact and, more importantly, you prepare yourself to respond with clarity and composure if they ever occur. It's like a mental fire drill. You practice handling the heat so you're ready when the flames appear. Take a difficult conversation, for example. Maybe you've been putting off addressing a sensitive issue with a colleague or loved one. Instead of avoiding it, imagine the worst possible outcome: raised voices, misunderstandings, or even hurt feelings. Now ask yourself, how would I respond? What steps could I take to navigate this with calm and respect? By mentally rehearsing this scenario, you're not only preparing for the conversation but also reducing the anxiety surrounding it. Seneca's wisdom reminds us, what is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. When we anticipate challenges, we rob them of their ability to catch us off guard. So here's a challenge for you. Think of something you're dreading or fearing: a project, a conversation, or even a life change. Visualize the worst that could happen, and then ask yourself, how would I handle it? This simple exercise can shift your perspective, helping you approach life's uncertainties not with fear, but with readiness and strength. What if every setback was a gift? Sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Yet, this is the heart of the Stoic principle known as Amor Fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. At its core, this concept teaches us to embrace every twist and turn of life, not as obstacles but as opportunities for growth. Marcus Aurelius once reflected, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." In other words, life's challenges aren't random or cruel. They're the fuel that shapes us into stronger, wiser versions of ourselves. Think about it. When you face a failure, a rejection, or even a loss, your first instinct might be to resist it. You might ask, "Why me?" or wish things had turned out differently. But what if, instead of fighting against it, you chose to accept it, even love it? That's the essence of Amor Fati. It's not about passive resignation, it's about active acceptance. It's about seeing every event, good or bad, as an essential thread in the fabric of your life. Consider this. Imagine you worked tirelessly on a project, only to have it fall apart at the last minute. Your initial reaction might be frustration, disappointment, or even anger. But through the lens of Amor Fati, you could ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How does this setback prepare me for what's next? By reframing the experience, you transform it from a source of pain into a stepping stone. This mindset doesn't just ease emotional turmoil, it empowers you to move forward with purpose. Here's another way to think about it. Life is like a river. You can fight against the current, exhausting yourself as you struggle to change its course. Or you can flow with it, trusting that it's taking you where you need to go. Amor Fati is about choosing to flow. It's about recognizing that every experience, no matter how difficult, has a role in shaping your journey. So here's a challenge for you. Think of one event in your life that you've resisted: a failure, a disappointment, or even a moment of regret. Now try to reframe it. Ask yourself, how did this experience make me stronger? What did it teach me? By finding meaning in what once felt meaningless, you reclaim your power and open yourself to a deeper sense of peace. After all, as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. What would you do differently if today were your last day? It's a heavy question, but one that cuts through the noise of life's distractions. The Stoics had a practice for this exact kind of clarity: Memento Mori, which translates to "remember that you will die." Far from being morbid, this practice is a powerful tool to help us focus on what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius reflected, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. By keeping the inevitability of death in mind, the Stoics believed we could strip away the trivial and live with greater purpose. Think about it. How often do we waste energy on things that won't matter in the long run? Arguments over minor disagreements, obsessing over social media likes, or fretting about things we can't control. These worries shrink in significance when viewed through the lens of mortality. Memento Mori isn't about fear or despair, it's about liberation. It reminds us that our time is finite, and that awareness can sharpen our focus on what we value most: relationships, growth, and the legacy we leave behind. Imagine you're stuck in a draining job, feeling unfulfilled but too afraid to make a change. Now picture yourself at the end of your life looking back. Would you regret staying in that role, or would you wish you'd taken the leap towards something more meaningful? this exercise isn't meant to scare you, it's designed to clarify your priorities. When you confront the reality of life's brevity, the choices that once seemed daunting become clearer, and the courage to act grows stronger. The Stoics used Memento Mori as a daily reminder to live intentionally. Epictetus advised, keep death and exile before your eyes every day, along with everything that seems terrible. By doing so, you'll never have a base thought, nor will you desire anything excessively. This practice helps us detach from superficial concerns and reconnect with what's truly important. It's not about avoiding joy or living in constant solemnity. It's about ensuring that our actions align with our deepest values. Here's a practical way to apply this. Take a moment to reflect on your daily routines. What habits or commitments no longer serve you? What relationships or projects deserve more of your time and energy? By asking these questions, you begin to align your life with what truly matters. Memento Mori isn't just a Stoic exercise, it's a call to live authentically and fully, with the awareness that every moment is a gift. So here's a challenge for you. Think about one thing you've been putting off: a dream, a conversation, or a change you've been hesitant to make. Now ask yourself, if today were your last day, would you regret not acting on it? This simple yet profound question can shift your perspective, helping you let go of what doesn't matter and embrace what does. After all, as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, it is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Ever felt stuck in a negative thought loop? You know, that moment when something goes wrong and your mind keeps replaying it, making you feel worse with each passing second. It's exhausting, isn't it? But what if you could break free from that cycle by simply changing how you see the situation? That's where cognitive reframing comes in, a powerful Stoic tool that helps us reinterpret events to reduce emotional distress. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it this way: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In other words, our emotions aren't dictated by events themselves, but by the meaning we assign to them. Let's break this down. Imagine you're at work and a colleague criticizes your project in front of the team. Your first reaction might be frustration, embarrassment, or even anger. But here's the thing, the criticism itself isn't what's causing those emotions, it's your interpretation of it. Maybe you're thinking, they're attacking me personally, or I'm not good enough. Cognitive reframing invites you to step back and ask, is there another way to look at this? Instead of seeing the criticism as an attack, you could view it as constructive feedback, an opportunity to improve. By shifting your perspective, you transform a potentially painful moment into a chance for growth. This isn't about denying your feelings or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing a more empowering lens to view your experiences. Think of it like this: life hands you a raw, unedited video full of chaos and uncertainty. Cognitive reframing is the editing process. You get to decide which angles to focus on, which moments to highlight, and which to let go. And when you do, you take control of the narrative, shaping it in a way that serves you rather than holds you back. Here's a practical way to apply this. Think of a recent situation where you felt upset or frustrated. Maybe it was a disagreement with a friend, a missed opportunity, or even a small mistake at work. Now ask yourself, how else could I interpret this? What's a more constructive way to look at it? For example, if a friend cancelled plans last minute, instead of thinking, they don't care about me, you could reframe it as, they must be dealing with something important, and this gives me time to focus on myself. By practicing this shift, you reduce emotional distress and open yourself to new possibilities. Epictetus reminds us, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. When we reframe our experiences, we reclaim our emotional freedom. So, here's a challenge for you. The next time you find yourself caught in a negative thought loop, pause and ask, what's another way to see this? By mastering cognitive reframing, you're not just reacting to life, you're actively shaping it one perspective at a time. How often do you react without thinking? We've all been there. Someone cuts you off in traffic, or a coworker says something dismissive, and before you know it, you're caught in a whirlwind of frustration. But what if you could hit the pause button on those impulses? That's exactly what the Stoic practice of the discipline of assent is all about. It's the art of stepping back, even for just a moment, to examine your initial reactions before letting them take control. As Epictetus famously said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, don't let your emotions dictate your actions, choose them deliberately. Here's how it works. Every time you encounter a situation, your mind forms an impression. Maybe it's anger, fear, or even excitement. The discipline of assent teaches us to pause and question that impression before giving it our approval. Is this reaction accurate? Is it helpful? Or is it just a knee-jerk response? By creating this space between stimulus and reaction, you gain the clarity to respond in a way that aligns with your values, not your impulses. Let's take a relatable example. You're stuck in traffic and someone cuts you off. Your first impression might be anger. Your heart races, your hands tighten on the wheel, and you're tempted to honk or yell. But here's where the discipline of assent comes in. Instead of immediately acting on that anger, you pause. You ask yourself, does this person's action really warrant my frustration? Is this anger serving me, or is it just adding stress to an already stressful situation? By questioning your initial reaction, you create an opportunity to choose a calmer, more constructive response. Maybe you take a deep breath, let it go, and focus on getting to your destination safely. That small pause can make all the difference. Epictetus offers a powerful insight into this practice. It is the act of an uninstructed person to lay the fault of his own bad condition upon others. The act of one who is commencing instruction is to lay the fault on himself, and of one who is perfectly instructed, neither on others nor on himself. In other words, the discipline of assent isn't about blaming others or yourself. It's about taking responsibility for how you respond. It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose your reactions, even in the heat of the moment. Now think about your own life. When was the last time you reacted impulsively, only to regret it later? Maybe it was snapping at a loved one, making a hasty decision, or letting frustration cloud your judgment. The discipline of assent invites you to practice pausing in those moments. It doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means giving yourself the space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Here's a simple way to start. The next time you feel a strong emotion rising, whether it's anger, anxiety, or even excitement, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this reaction accurate? Is it helpful? What would a calm, rational response look like? By practicing this pause, you'll begin to notice a shift in how you handle challenges. Over time, this small act of reflection can lead to greater emotional clarity, resilience, and peace. After all, as Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. And mastering yourself starts with a single, intentional pause. Imagine looking down at Earth from space, a swirling blue marble suspended in the vast darkness. From this vantage point, the borders, skyscrapers, and even the mountains we think of as monumental suddenly seem tiny, almost insignificant. This is the essence of the Stoic exercise known as the view from above. It's a mental tool designed to help us step back from the chaos of daily life and see our struggles in the context of something much larger. Marcus Aurelius, who often practiced this exercise, wrote, "Look down from above on the countless herds of men and their countless solemn ceremonies, and the infinitely varied voyagings in storms and calms, and consider the life of the many peoples long ago, and the life of those who will live after you." What he's pointing to is the power of perspective, a way to shrink our problems down to their true size. Here's how it works when you're caught in a heated argument, stressed about a deadline, or overwhelmed by life's demands. Take a moment to imagine yourself floating above it all. Picture your city, your neighborhood, even your own home from high above. Then zoom out further, see the planet, the stars, the infinite expanse of the universe. Suddenly, that argument with a coworker or the traffic jam that's driving you mad doesn't feel so monumental. It's not that your struggles don't matter, it's that they're part of a much bigger picture. This shift in perspective can be profoundly liberating, helping you approach challenges with a calmer, clearer mind. Think about it. How often do we get caught up in the minutiae of life, losing sight of what truly matters? A rude comment, a missed opportunity, or even a bad day can feel like the end of the world when we're too close to it. But when we step back, we realize these moments are just blips in the grand scheme of things. Marcus Aurelius reminds us how quickly all things disappear in the universe, the bodies themselves, in time, the remembrance of them. By practicing the view from above, we're not dismissing our struggles, we're simply choosing not to let them consume us. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're in the middle of a petty conflict, maybe a disagreement with a friend over something trivial. Instead of letting it escalate, take a mental step back. Visualize the two of you from above, then zoom out further. How small does that argument look now? How much energy are you willing to give it when you consider the vastness of the world around you? This exercise isn't about ignoring your feelings, it's about reframing them. It's about recognizing that while your emotions are valid, they don't have to dictate your actions. Here's a challenge for you. The next time you feel overwhelmed or frustrated, pause and practice the view from above. Close your eyes and imagine yourself rising above the situation, higher and higher, until your problems seem like tiny specks in the grand tapestry of life. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a year, a decade? By gaining this broader perspective, you'll find it easier to let go of what doesn't serve you and focus on what truly does. After all, as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it, and with the right perspective, we can make it something extraordinary. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, had a unique habit that might sound counterintuitive at first. He spent time every day imagining the worst-case scenarios life could throw at him. Why? Because he believed that by mentally preparing for adversity, he could face it with courage and clarity. He called this practice Premeditatio Malorum, or the premeditation of evils. As he wrote, what is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. In other words, when we anticipate challenges, we strip them of their power to overwhelm us. This isn't about dwelling on fear, it's about building resilience and equipping ourselves to handle whatever comes our way. So, how does this work in practice? Imagine you're preparing for a job interview. Instead of just focusing on potential questions and rehearsing your answers, you take it a step further. You ask yourself, what if I stumble over my words? What if the interviewer seems uninterested? What if I don't get the job? By visualizing these possibilities, you're not inviting negativity, you're preparing yourself to respond calmly and effectively if they happen. This mental rehearsal reduces the shock of the unexpected and helps you approach the situation with confidence rather than anxiety. The Stoics saw Premeditatio Malorum as a form of mental training. Just as a firefighter practices responding to emergencies, you're preparing your mind to handle life's curveballs. Seneca believed that by imagining the worst, we could turn fear into readiness. He wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." When you've already considered the challenges, they lose their ability to catch you off guard. This doesn't mean you're pessimistic, it means you're proactive. You're not waiting for life to surprise you, you're meeting it head-on. Let's make this tangible. Think about your week ahead. What are the potential challenges you might face? Maybe it's a difficult conversation with a colleague, a tight deadline, or even a personal commitment that feels overwhelming. Take a moment to list these challenges and then ask yourself, how would I handle each one if it happened? By doing this, you're not only preparing for the unexpected, but also reducing the anxiety that often comes with uncertainty. Here's a practical way to apply this before a big meeting, a presentation, or even a social event. Spend a few minutes imagining what could go wrong. Picture yourself handling those moments with grace and composure. What would you say? How would you adjust? This exercise isn't about expecting failure. It's about building the mental flexibility to adapt and thrive no matter what happens. Seneca's wisdom reminds us, he who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. By practicing Premeditatio Malorum, you're not just preparing for the worst, you're empowering yourself to face life's challenges with strength and clarity. So take a moment to reflect. What's one challenge you're anticipating this week? How can you prepare for it mentally and emotionally? By embracing this Stoic practice, you'll find that even the toughest situations become opportunities for growth and resilience. How often do you cling to things beyond your control? It's human nature to hold on tightly to outcomes, expectations, or even relationships. But what if the key to peace lies in letting go? The Stoics understood this deeply, and their principle of detachment offers a powerful way to free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it simply, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. When we release our grip on what we can't change, we open the door to a calmer, more resilient way of living. At its core, detachment isn't about indifference or giving up. It's about recognizing the limits of our control and choosing to focus on what we can influence: our thoughts, actions, and responses. Think about it. When you pour your energy into trying to control outcomes, you're setting yourself up for frustration. But when you shift your focus to what's within your power, you reclaim your emotional freedom. For example, imagine you've worked tirelessly on a project only to see it fail. Your instinct might be to obsess over what went wrong or blame external factors, but the Stoic approach invites you to ask, what did I learn from this? How can I grow from the experience? By letting go of the outcome, you create space for growth and peace. This principle isn't just about big life events, it applies to the small, everyday moments too. Consider something as simple as waiting for a response to a text or email. How often do you find yourself checking your phone, wondering why they haven't replied? That's attachment at work. The Stoics would remind you that the other person's response is beyond your control, but how you choose to spend your time while waiting is entirely up to you. By releasing the need for immediate answers, you free yourself from unnecessary stress and regain your focus on what truly matters. Epictetus offers a powerful analogy for this. If you want your children and your wife and your friends to live forever, you are silly, for you want things that are not within your control to be within your control, and what is not your own to be your own. In other words, attachment to outcomes only leads to disappointment. But when we accept the impermanence of life and the unpredictability of external events, we find a deeper sense of calm. It's not about not caring, it's about caring in a way that doesn't imprison us. Here's a practical way to apply this. Think about something you've been holding onto, a goal, a relationship, or even a past mistake. Ask yourself, what part of this is within my control? Maybe it's your effort, your attitude, or how you choose to move forward. Now, consider what you need to release. Is it the expectation of a specific outcome, the fear of failure, the need for approval? By identifying what you can let go of, you create space for clarity and peace. So here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on one thing in your life that feels like a weight, something you've been clinging to, even though it's beyond your control. What would it feel like to release it? How might your life change if you shifted your focus to what you can influence? As Epictetus reminds us, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. By practicing the art of letting go, you're not just freeing yourself from stress, you're reclaiming your power to live with intention and peace. When was the last time you paused to truly appreciate what you have? In a world that constantly pushes us to want more success, more possessions, more recognition, it's easy to lose sight of the abundance already present in our lives. This is where the Stoic practice of gratitude comes in, a powerful tool to shift our focus from what we lack to what we already possess. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most renowned Stoic philosophers, often reflected on this idea. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Gratitude, in the Stoic sense, isn't just about saying thank you, it's about cultivating a mindset that recognizes the value in the ordinary and the everyday. At its core, gratitude is a form of perspective shifting. Instead of dwelling on what's missing, we train our minds to see what's already here. Think about it. How often do we overlook the small joys that surround us? A warm cup of coffee in the morning, a kind word from a friend, or even the simple act of waking up healthy, these are gifts that often go unnoticed. The Stoics believed that by focusing on these moments, we could reframe our entire experience of life. As Marcus Aurelius put it, do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave for them if they were not yours. In other words, gratitude helps us see the richness of our lives even when they feel incomplete. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you're having a tough day at work, stress is high, deadlines are looming, and nothing seems to be going right. Instead of spiraling into frustration, take a moment to shift your focus. What's one thing you're grateful for in this moment? Maybe it's the fact that you have a job that challenges you, or the support of a colleague who's always willing to help. By acknowledging these blessings, you interrupt the cycle of negativity and create space for calm and clarity. This small act of gratitude doesn't erase the challenges, but it gives you the strength to face them with a more balanced perspective. The beauty of gratitude lies in its simplicity. You don't need grand gestures or life-changing events to practice it. It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to appreciate the mundane. The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, because an artful life requires being prepared to meet and withstand sudden and unexpected attacks. Gratitude, in this sense, is a form of preparation. It equips us to handle life's challenges by grounding us in what truly matters. Here's a practical way to start. Every evening, take a few minutes to reflect on your day. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be monumental. Maybe it's the sound of rain outside your window, a meal you enjoyed, or even a moment of quiet in a busy day. Over time, this practice trains your mind to notice and appreciate the good that's already present, rather than constantly chasing what's missing. It's a small habit, but one that can transform how you experience life. So here's a challenge for you. Before the day ends, pause and think of 3 things you're grateful for. It could be as simple as the warmth of the sun on your skin or the laughter of a loved one. By practicing gratitude, you're not just acknowledging the good in your life, you're actively cultivating a mindset of abundance and resilience. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, he who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have. Gratitude, then, isn't just a practice, it's a path to peace. Silence is often the loudest response. In a world that constantly demands our voices, whether in arguments, debates, or even just the noise of our own thoughts, choosing silence can feel counterintuitive. But for the Stoics, silence wasn't just the absence of sound. It was a powerful tool for mastering emotions and regaining control. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And sometimes to remain silent is an act of strength." Silence, in the Stoic sense, isn't about suppressing your feelings or avoiding conflict. It's about creating space for clarity, self-control, and thoughtful action. Think about the last time you were in a heated argument. Emotions were running high, words were flying, and before you knew it, you said something you regretted. Sound familiar? The Stoics believed that in moments like these, silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. By pausing and refusing to engage in the heat of the moment, you give yourself time to process, to reflect, and to respond rather than react. Seneca put it this way: speech is the mirror of the soul. As a man speaks, so he is. When we choose silence, we're not just avoiding conflict, we're protecting our integrity and emotional well-being. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague challenges your idea in a dismissive or even aggressive way. Your instinct might be to defend yourself, to argue your point, or even to fire back with a sharp retort. But what if, instead of reacting, you chose silence? Not as a sign of defeat, but as a deliberate pause, a moment to gather your thoughts, to consider their perspective, and to respond with calm and clarity. This kind of silence isn't passive, it's strategic. It's about reclaiming your power in the moment rather than handing it over to anger or frustration. The Stoics saw silence as a form of self-discipline. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, taught, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Silence, in this sense, is about listening to others, to our own inner voice, and to the deeper truths that emerge when we stop filling the air with noise. It's a way to step back from the chaos of the moment and reconnect with what truly matters. Here's a challenge for you. The next time you find yourself in a heated moment, whether it's an argument, a stressful conversation, or even just a surge of frustration, try practicing silence. Take a deep breath, pause, and resist the urge to react immediately. Instead, give yourself the space to think, to reflect, and to choose your response carefully. Ask yourself, what will I gain by speaking now? What could I gain by staying silent? This simple act of restraint can transform how you handle conflict, helping you approach challenges with calm and confidence. Seneca reminds us, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. By embracing the power of silence, you're not just avoiding unnecessary arguments, you're cultivating emotional mastery and inner peace. So take a moment today to reflect. Where in your life could silence serve as your greatest ally? Whether it's in a difficult conversation, a moment of stress, or even just the quiet of your own mind, silence has the power to bring clarity, strength, and resilience. And sometimes the loudest statement you can make is to say nothing at all. What does it mean to live virtuously in a chaotic world? It's a question that feels especially relevant today as we navigate a landscape filled with uncertainty, conflict, and constant demand. For the Stoics, virtue wasn't just a lofty ideal, it was the foundation of a meaningful life. They believed that true happiness and emotional resilience come from living in alignment with 4 core virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most celebrated thinkers, put it simply, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be one. But how do these virtues actually guide our emotional responses in the face of chaos?" Let's break it down. First, consider wisdom. In Stoic philosophy, wisdom is about seeing the world as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. It's the ability to discern what's within our control and what's not, and to act accordingly. When life feels overwhelming, wisdom reminds us to pause, assess the situation, and respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. For example, if you're dealing with a difficult coworker, wisdom might guide you to approach the situation with curiosity rather than frustration. Instead of assuming they're out to get you, you might ask, what's driving their behavior? How can I address this constructively? By applying wisdom, we shift from emotional turbulence to clarity and purpose. Next, there's courage. Courage, in the Stoic sense, isn't about fearlessness, it's about facing fear with integrity. It's the strength to stand by your principles, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. Imagine you're in a situation where speaking up could cost you socially or professionally. Courage doesn't mean you won't feel afraid. It means you'll act despite that fear, guided by what's right rather than what's easy. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. When we embrace courage, we transform obstacles into opportunities for growth. Justice, the third virtue, goes beyond fairness. It's about living in harmony with others and contributing to the greater good. It's the recognition that our actions have ripple effects and that we have a responsibility to act with integrity and compassion. Think about a time when you witnessed an injustice, whether at work or in your community. Justice calls us to step up, not just for ourselves, but for others. It's about asking, how can I make this situation better? How can I ensure my actions align with my values? In a chaotic world, justice grounds us in a sense of purpose and connection. Finally, there's temperance, the virtue of self-control and moderation. It's about finding balance in our desires, emotions, and actions. In a culture that often glorifies excess, temperance reminds us to pause and ask, is this necessary? Is this serving me? Whether it's resisting the urge to lash out in anger or choosing not to overindulge in distractions, temperance helps us maintain emotional equilibrium. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." By practicing temperance, we reclaim our power and create space for intentional living. So how can we embody these virtues in our daily lives? Start by reflecting on a recent challenge you faced. Did you approach it with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance? If not, what could you have done differently? The Stoics believed that virtue isn't something we achieve once and for all. It's a lifelong practice, a constant effort to align our actions with our highest values. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What color will yours be? By striving to live virtuously, we not only navigate chaos with greater ease, but also leave a lasting impact on the world around us. How often do you find yourself lost in worries about the future or stuck replaying the past? Maybe you're sitting at your desk, physically present but mentally miles away, preoccupied with what might happen tomorrow or what went wrong yesterday. Sound familiar? This constant mental tug of war is exhausting, but the Stoics offer a powerful antidote, the practice of presence. By focusing on the here and now, we can reclaim our peace and reduce the anxiety that often comes from overthinking. As Epictetus wisely observed, man is disturbed not by things, but by the views he takes of them. In other words, it's not the events themselves that trouble us, it's our preoccupation with what's already happened or what might come next. Living in the present moment is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that the past is unchangeable and the future is uncertain, so the only moment we truly have is the present. By anchoring ourselves in the now, we free ourselves from the mental weight of regret and worry. Epictetus put it this way: we should always be asking ourselves, is this something that is or is not in my control? When we focus on what's happening right now rather than what's beyond our reach, we find clarity and calm. It's not about ignoring the future or dismissing the past, it's about giving your full attention to the moment you're in. let's make this practical. Imagine you're cooking dinner after a long day. Instead of letting your mind wander to tomorrow's to-do list or replaying a frustrating conversation from earlier, try focusing entirely on the task at hand. Notice the sound of the sizzling pan, the smell of the ingredients, the texture of the vegetables as you chop them. This simple act of mindfulness isn't just about cooking, it's about training your mind to stay grounded in the present. By doing so, you create a buffer against the stress and distractions that pull you away from the now. The Stoics understood that presence isn't just a mental exercise, it's a way of life. Here's another example. Think about a time when you were so engrossed in an activity, maybe reading a book, playing a sport, or even having a meaningful conversation that you lost track of time. That's presence in action. The Stoics would argue that this state of flow, where you're fully immersed in the moment, is where we find both joy and resilience. It's in these moments that we're most alive, most connected to ourselves and the world around us. So, how can you start practicing presence in your own life? Here's a simple challenge. For the next 5 minutes, choose one activity, whether it's washing the dishes, walking in nature, or even just sitting quietly, and give it your full attention. Notice the sensations, the sounds, the details you might normally overlook. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to the present. This isn't about achieving perfection, it's about building the habit of being here now. As Epictetus reminds us, if you seek tranquility, do less, or more accurately, do what's essential and do it well. By focusing on the present, you're not just reducing anxiety, you're reclaiming your ability to live fully, one moment at a time. What do you truly desire, and why? It's a question that cuts to the heart of our struggles and aspirations. We all have dreams and goals, but what happens when those desires are rooted in things beyond our control? The Stoics understood this dilemma deeply, and their practice of the discipline of desire offers a transformative way to align our wants with what's truly within our power. As Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, put it, freedom is secured not by the fulfillment of one's desires, but by the removal of desire. At first glance, this might sound counterintuitive. Aren't desires what drive us forward? But the Stoics weren't saying we should abandon ambition or stop striving for growth. Instead, they were urging us to examine where we place our energy and attention, and to ensure our desires are rooted in what we can actually influence. The discipline of desire is about recognizing the difference between what's within our control and what isn't. Think about it. How often do we set our hearts on outcomes that depend entirely on external factors, like winning someone's approval, achieving a specific job title, or even just having a sunny day for a planned event? When these desires are met, we feel elated, but when they're not, we're left frustrated, disappointed, or even resentful. The Stoics argue that this emotional roller coaster isn't inevitable, it's a result of misaligned desires. By shifting our focus to what we can control, our effort, our attitude, our choices, we free ourselves from the emotional turbulence of chasing external validation or outcomes. Epictetus offers a powerful analogy for this. Some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. In other words, our desires should be directed toward actions and attitudes that are entirely our own, not outcomes that depend on others or external circumstances. For example, instead of desiring to be promoted at work, focus on the effort, skills, and integrity you bring to your role. That way, even if the promotion doesn't come, you can take pride in the work you've done and the person you've become. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're training for a marathon. Your ultimate desire might be to finish the race in a specific time or even win it. But here's the thing, you can't control how other runners perform, the weather on race day, or even how your body will feel that morning. What you can control is your training regimen, your mindset, and your commitment to showing up and doing your best. By aligning your desire with these controllable elements, you reduce the frustration of unmet expectations and find fulfillment in the process itself. This is the essence of the discipline of desire. It's about finding satisfaction in the journey, not just the destination. So, how can you start practicing this in your own life? Here's a reflective prompt to get you started. Take a moment to think about one desire you've been holding on to, something that feels important but is largely outside your control. Maybe it's a relationship you want to fix, a goal you're striving for, or even a specific outcome you're hoping for. Now ask yourself, what aspects of this situation are within my control? How can I shift my focus to those areas? By doing this, you're not giving up on your dreams. You're grounding them in what's truly possible. Epictetus reminds us, man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. When we align our desires with what's within our control, we free ourselves from unnecessary worry and open the door to a more peaceful, intentional way of living. So take a moment today to reflect. What do you truly desire, and how can you align it with what's truly yours to shape? By embracing the discipline of desire, you're not just chasing happiness, you're cultivating it, one intentional choice at a time. Adversity is the best teacher. It's a bold statement, but one the Stoics held as a core truth. They believed that challenges aren't obstacles to avoid their opportunities to grow, to learn, and to become stronger. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound thinkers, put it this way: difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In other words, just as physical exercise builds muscle, adversity builds resilience. It's not about seeking out hardship, but about embracing it when it comes and using it to your advantage. At the heart of this philosophy is the idea that struggle shapes character. Think about it. When life is smooth and predictable, we rarely feel the need to push ourselves. But when faced with adversity, we're forced to dig deep to adapt and to discover strengths we never knew we had. The Stoics saw this as a gift, a chance to refine ourselves and grow into the best versions of who we can be. Seneca often reflected on this, writing, "The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it." It's a reminder that the challenges we face aren't just tests, they're opportunities to prove our resilience and deepen our understanding of ourselves. Let's make this real with an example. Imagine you've been passed over for a promotion you worked hard for. At first, it might feel like a crushing blow, a sign that your efforts weren't enough. But through the Stoic lens, this setback becomes a moment for reflection and growth. What can you learn from this experience? How can you improve your skills, adjust your approach, or even explore new opportunities? By reframing the situation, you transform a moment of disappointment into a stepping stone for future success. Seneca's wisdom reminds us, we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Often, the fear of adversity is worse than the adversity itself. When we face challenges head-on, we realize they're not as insurmountable as they seem. In fact, they can be catalysts for growth, pushing us to develop qualities like patience, persistence, and creativity. These are the traits that not only help us overcome the current challenge, but also prepare us for whatever comes next. Here's a practical way to apply this. Think about a past challenge that felt overwhelming at the time but ultimately made you stronger. Maybe it was a failed project, a difficult relationship, or even a personal loss. How did you grow from that experience? What strengths did you discover within yourself? By reflecting on these moments, you begin to see adversity not as something to fear, but as a teacher, one that equips you with the tools to navigate life's uncertainties with greater confidence and grace. So here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to identify a past challenge that shaped you for the better. What did it teach you about yourself? How did it prepare you for what came next? By embracing the Stoic view of adversity, you're not just surviving life's difficulties, you're thriving because of them. After all, as Seneca reminds us, fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men. And in the fires of challenge, we have the chance to become more resilient, more capable, and more fully ourselves. When was the last time you truly reflected on your actions? Not just a quick mental scan of your day, but a deep, honest look at how you've spent your time, the choices you've made, and the emotions that guided you. For the Stoics, self-reflection wasn't just an occasional exercise, it was a daily practice, a cornerstone of personal growth and emotional resilience. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most celebrated figures, dedicated his famous meditations to this very habit, using it as a way to examine his thoughts, actions, and intentions. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Self-reflection, in the Stoic sense, is about more than just looking back. It's about learning, growing, and preparing yourself to live more intentionally tomorrow. At its core, self-reflection is about awareness. It's the practice of stepping back from the whirlwind of daily life to ask yourself, how did I show up today? Did my actions align with my values? What could I have done better? This isn't about self-criticism or dwelling on mistakes. It's about cultivating a mindset of continuous improvement. The Stoics believed that by examining our thoughts and behaviors, we gain insight into what drives us and how we can respond more thoughtfully in the future. As Marcus Aurelius put it, waste no more time arguing what a good person should be one. Self-reflection is the tool that helps us bridge the gap between who we are and who we aspire to be. One of the most practical ways to practice self-reflection is through journaling. The Stoics were avid journalers, using their writings as a way to process their experiences and clarify their thoughts. Imagine ending your day by writing down a few key questions. What went well today? What challenges did I face? How did I handle them? What can I learn from this? This simple act of putting pen to paper not only helps you process your emotions, but also creates a record of your growth over time. It's like having a conversation with yourself, one that helps you see patterns, celebrate progress, and identify areas for improvement. Let's make this tangible. Think about a recent situation where you felt frustrated or overwhelmed. Maybe it was a disagreement with a loved one, a setback at work, or even a moment of self-doubt. Now take a few minutes to reflect on it. Ask yourself, what triggered my emotions? How did I respond? What could I have done differently? By breaking the experience down, you gain clarity and perspective. This isn't about dwelling on the past, it's about equipping yourself to handle similar situations with greater wisdom and composure in the future. Here's a challenge for you. Tonight, before you go to bed, take 5 minutes to reflect on your day. You don't need a fancy journal or a lengthy process, just a quiet moment to ask yourself those key questions. What went well? What didn't? What can you learn? By making this a daily habit, you'll start to notice subtle shifts in how you approach challenges, how you respond to others, and how you see yourself. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Self-reflection is how we ensure those thoughts are shaping us into the best versions of ourselves. So take a moment today to pause, reflect, and grow, because the journey to becoming your best self begins with a single, honest look within. How often do you find yourself resisting what's already happened? Maybe it's a missed opportunity, a relationship that ended, or even a mistake you can't undo. We've all been there, clinging to the past, wishing things had turned out differently. But what if the key to peace lies not in changing what's happened, but in accepting it? This is the heart of the Stoic principle of acceptance, a powerful tool for reducing suffering and finding emotional freedom. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, put it simply: Don't seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and you will go on well. In other words, acceptance isn't about giving up, it's about aligning yourself with reality rather than fighting against it. At its core, acceptance is about recognizing what's beyond our control and choosing to let go of the struggle. Think about it. When we resist reality, whether it's a loss, a failure, or even a minor inconvenience, we create unnecessary suffering. It's like trying to swim against a current. The harder we fight, the more exhausted we become. But when we stop resisting and accept what's already happened, we free ourselves from that struggle. Epictetus reminds us, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. By accepting reality, we redirect our energy toward what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our responses. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you've worked tirelessly on a project, only to see it fall apart at the last minute. Your first reaction might be frustration, disappointment, or even anger. But here's the thing, no amount of resistance will change the outcome. What's done is done. Acceptance invites you to shift your focus from what's lost to what's still possible. Maybe there's a lesson to be learned, a new direction to explore, or even just the chance to practice resilience. By accepting the situation, you transform it from a source of pain into an opportunity for growth. This principle isn't just about big life events, it applies to the small, everyday moments too. Consider something as simple as getting stuck in traffic. You can spend the entire drive fuming, wishing the cars would move faster, or you can accept that this is the reality of the moment and use the time to reflect, listen to a podcast, or simply breathe. Acceptance doesn't mean you're happy about the situation. It means you're choosing not to let it control your emotions. As Epictetus wisely noted, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So, how can you start practicing acceptance in your own life? Here's a reflective prompt to get you started. Think about one thing you've been resisting, a past mistake, a current challenge, or even a future uncertainty. Now, ask yourself, what would it feel like to accept this just as it is? By acknowledging reality without judgment, you create space for clarity and peace. Acceptance isn't about resignation, it's about reclaiming your power to move forward, no matter what life throws your way. Epictetus reminds us, he who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have. When we stop fighting against what's already happened and start embracing it, we open the door to a deeper sense of calm and resilience. So, take a moment today to reflect. What's one thing in your life that you need to accept? By practicing this Stoic principle, you're not just reducing suffering, you're creating the foundation for a more peaceful, intentional way of living. How do you stay calm when everything feels chaotic? It's a question we've all wrestled with at some point, especially in a world that often feels like it's spinning out of control. For the Stoics, the answer lies in the practice of equanimity, a state of mental calm and emotional stability, no matter the circumstances. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most revered figures, often reflected on this idea. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Equanimity isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about cultivating an inner steadiness that allows you to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and clarity. At its core, equanimity is about balance. It's the ability to meet both good fortune and adversity with the same level of composure. Think about it. When something goes wrong, it's easy to spiral into frustration or despair. But when something goes right, we often cling to it, fearing it might slip away. The Stoics believed that both extremes, overreacting to the bad and clinging to the good, create unnecessary suffering. Equanimity invites us to find a middle ground where we can experience life's highs and lows without being swept away by them. Marcus Aurelius put it this way, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. By training our minds to remain steady, we can face any situation with resilience and poise. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you've just received unexpected news. Maybe it's a sudden change at work, a health scare, or even a personal loss. Your first reaction might be panic, fear, or even anger, but here's where equanimity comes in. Instead of letting your emotions take over, you pause. You take a deep breath and remind yourself, this is the reality of the moment. How can I respond with clarity and calm? By creating this space between stimulus and reaction, you give yourself the chance to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. This doesn't mean you won't feel the emotions. It means you won't let them control you. The Stoics saw equanimity as a form of strength. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When we cultivate equanimity, we're not just reacting to life, we're shaping it. We're choosing to respond in a way that aligns with our values and preserves our peace even in the face of chaos. This practice isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally resilient, capable of weathering life's storms without losing sight of who we are. So, how can you start practicing equanimity in your own life? Here's a reflective prompt to get you started. Think about a recent situation where you felt overwhelmed or stressed. Maybe it was a conflict at work, a personal disappointment, or even just a busy day that left you frazzled. Now ask yourself, how could I have approached this with more calm? What would equanimity look like in this moment? By reflecting on these questions, you begin to build the habit of responding rather than reacting, of finding calm even when the world feels chaotic. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, because an artful life requires being prepared to meet and withstand sudden and unexpected attacks. Equanimity is the tool that helps us stay grounded in the midst of life's challenges. So, the next time you find yourself caught in the whirlwind of stress or uncertainty, take a moment to pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I have the power to choose how I respond. By practicing equanimity, you're not just surviving life's chaos, you're thriving in it, one calm breath at a time. How often do you let emotions override logic? It's a question worth asking, especially in moments when frustration, anger, or even excitement take the wheel, leaving reason in the backseat. The Stoics placed immense value on the power of reason, seeing it as the guiding force that could temper our emotions and help us navigate life with clarity and purpose. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential voices, put it this way: it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. In other words, reason allows us to pause, reflect, and choose how we respond, rather than being swept away by the tides of emotion. At its core, reason is about balance. It's the ability to step back from the heat of the moment and ask, what's really happening here? Is my reaction aligned with reality, or am I being driven by assumptions or fears? The Stoics believed that emotions themselves aren't the problem, it's how we interpret and respond to them. When we let reason guide us, we create a space between stimulus and reaction, a moment of clarity where we can choose our next move wisely. Epictetus reminds us, we are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. By engaging our rational mind, we can reframe our experiences and respond in ways that align with our values rather than our impulses. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in a heated argument with a loved one. Emotions are running high, and every word feels like a spark threatening to ignite a bigger fire. In that moment, it's easy to lash out, to say things you don't mean, or to shut down entirely. But what if, instead of reacting, you paused? What if you took a breath and asked yourself, what's really at stake here? Is this worth escalating, or can I approach it differently? By engaging your rational mind, you shift from a place of reactivity to one of thoughtful response. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions, it means allowing reason to guide them, so you can communicate effectively and preserve the relationship. The Stoics saw reason as a tool for self-mastery. It's what allows us to rise above our immediate feelings and act in alignment with our long-term goals and values. Epictetus often emphasized this teaching: first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Whether it's making a tough decision at work, navigating a personal conflict, or even just managing daily stress, reason helps us stay grounded and intentional. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being emotionally intelligent, using our rational mind to steer our actions with purpose. So, how can you start practicing this in your own life? Here's a reflective prompt to get you started. Think about a recent situation where emotions threatened to take over. Maybe it was a disagreement, a moment of frustration, or even a burst of excitement that clouded your judgment. Now ask yourself, how could I have approached this with more reason? What would a calm, rational response have looked like? By reflecting on these questions, you begin to build the habit of pausing and engaging your rational mind, even in the midst of emotional turbulence. Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. When we let reason guide our emotions, we reclaim our power to respond thoughtfully and intentionally, rather than reacting impulsively. So, the next time you feel emotions rising, take a moment to pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what's the wise choice here? By embracing the Stoic emphasis on reason, you're not just navigating life's challenges, you're mastering them one thoughtful decision at a time. How much of what you own do you truly need? It's a question that might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's one the Stoics believed was essential for a life of clarity and purpose. In a world that constantly tells us to acquire more possessions, more status, more distractions, the practice of simplicity stands as a counterintuitive yet powerful way to reclaim our focus and peace. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, put it this way: "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." In other words, true wealth isn't found in accumulation, it's found in knowing what's enough. At its core, simplicity is about stripping away the unnecessary to make room for what truly matters. Think about it. When your life is cluttered with distractions, whether it's material possessions, endless to-do lists, or the constant noise of social media, it's hard to focus on what's important. The Stoics believed that by simplifying our lives, we create space for clarity, intention, and inner peace. Seneca often wrote about the dangers of excess, reminding us, until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We have been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them. Simplicity, then, isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. It's about freeing ourselves from the weight of what we don't truly need. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine your workspace, whether it's a desk, a kitchen table, or even just a corner of your home. Is it cluttered with papers, gadgets, or things you rarely use? Now picture clearing it away, leaving only what you truly need to focus and create. How would that feel? Would it feel lighter, calmer, more intentional? This is the power of simplicity in action. By removing the distractions, you create an environment that supports clarity and purpose, not just in your workspace, but in your mind as well. The Stoics saw simplicity as a form of self-discipline. It's not just about decluttering your physical space, it's about decluttering your life. This includes your schedule, your relationships, and even your thoughts. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" By practicing simplicity, we train ourselves to find contentment in what we have, rather than constantly chasing what we don't. Now think about your own life. What's one area where you could simplify? Maybe it's your closet filled with clothes you never wear. Maybe it's your schedule packed with commitments that drain your energy. Or maybe it's your digital life cluttered with apps and notifications that pull you away from what truly matters. Take a moment to identify one thing you could let go of, something that no longer serves you. By doing this, you're not just clearing space, you're creating room for what truly enriches your life. Seneca's wisdom reminds us, if you wish to be content with little, you will never be in want. When we embrace simplicity, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of wanting and find peace in the present moment. So, here's a challenge for you. Choose one area of your life to simplify this week. Whether it's a physical space, a habit, or even a mindset, take that first step toward clarity and focus. By practicing simplicity, you're not just decluttering your surroundings, you're reclaiming your ability to live with intention, purpose, and peace. After all, as Seneca reminds us, the greatest wealth is a poverty of desires. And in simplicity, we find the freedom to truly live. How do you handle waiting for something important? Whether it's a promotion at work, a response to a big decision, or even just the arrival of a package, waiting can feel like an eternity. It's in these moments that frustration often creeps in, testing our emotional resilience. But what if waiting wasn't just a test of endurance, but an opportunity to cultivate a deeper sense of calm and control? This is where the Stoic virtue of patience comes into play, a powerful tool for mastering emotions and finding peace in the midst of uncertainty. At its core, patience is about more than just enduring delays, it's about shifting your perspective. The Stoics believed that many of our frustrations stem from trying to control the uncontrollable. When we're waiting, we're often fixated on the outcome, wishing it would hurry up or go our way. But patience teaches us to focus instead on what's within our control, our attitude, our mindset, and how we choose to spend the time. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, reflected on this, writing, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, because an artful life requires being prepared to meet and withstand sudden and unexpected attacks." In other words, patience isn't passive, it's an active practice of staying grounded. No matter how long the wait, think about it. How often do we let impatience dictate our emotions? Maybe you're waiting for feedback on a project or for a loved one to make a decision. The more you focus on the delay, the more frustrated you become. But what if, instead of fixating on the outcome, you used that time productively? You could focus on improving your skills, deepening your relationships, or simply practicing mindfulness. By shifting your attention to what's within your control, you transform waiting from a source of stress into an opportunity for growth. The Stoics saw patience as a form of strength. It's the ability to remain steady in the face of uncertainty, trusting that things will unfold in their own time. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This perspective doesn't just reduce frustration, it empowers you to approach life with a sense of calm and resilience, even when things don't go as planned. Let's make this practical. Imagine you've been working toward a promotion, but it's taking longer than expected. Instead of letting impatience eat away at your confidence, you could use this time to reflect on your goals. Are there areas where you can improve? Are there new skills you could develop? By focusing on what you can control, you turn waiting into a period of preparation and growth. This isn't just about career progress, it's about building the patience to handle any delay with grace and purpose. So here's a challenge for you today. Find one small way to practice patience. Maybe it's resisting the urge to check your phone while waiting in line, or taking a deep breath instead of reacting when someone keeps you waiting. Notice how it feels to let go of the need for immediate results. By cultivating patience in these small moments, you'll find it easier to stay calm and focused, even in the face of bigger challenges. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it. When we embrace patience, we're not just enduring the weight, we're shaping our experience of it. So, the next time you find yourself waiting, pause and ask, how can I use this moment to grow? By practicing patience, you're not just mastering your emotions, you're reclaiming your power to live with intention and peace. How often do you let pride dictate your actions? It's an uncomfortable question, but one worth asking, especially when emotions run high and tensions flare. Pride can blind us, convincing us that we're always right or that admitting fault is a sign of weakness. But the Stoics saw humility as a cornerstone of emotional mastery, a virtue that fosters self-awareness and resilience. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, put it this way: if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Humility, in the Stoic sense, isn't about self-deprecation. It's about recognizing our limitations and embracing opportunities to grow. At its core, humility is about seeing ourselves clearly. It's the willingness to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers, that we're fallible, and that there's always room for improvement. Think about it. When pride takes over, it's easy to dig in our heels, to defend our position even when we know deep down we're wrong. But humility allows us to step back, to reflect, and to say, I made a mistake and I can learn from it. This shift in perspective doesn't just diffuse conflict, it opens the door to deeper self-awareness and emotional resilience. Epictetus often emphasized the importance of humility in his teachings, reminding his students, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. In other words, when we approach life with humility, we create space for growth. We become students of our own experiences, willing to listen, to adapt, and to evolve. This mindset isn't just beneficial for personal development, it's essential for navigating relationships, both personal and professional. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're in a heated discussion with a colleague, and it becomes clear that you've misunderstood a key point. Pride might tempt you to double down, to argue your case even harder. But humility invites you to pause and say, I see now that I was mistaken. Thank you for helping me understand. This simple act of humility doesn't diminish your credibility, it strengthens it. It shows that you're secure enough to admit fault and committed enough to grow from it. The Stoics saw humility as a form of strength, not weakness. It's the ability to set aside ego and prioritize what's true and good over what's comfortable or convenient. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this, writing, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." When we respond to conflict or criticism with humility, we rise above the pettiness of pride and embody the principles we value most. So, how can you start practicing humility in your own life? Here's a reflective prompt to get you started. Think about a recent situation where pride might have clouded your judgment. Maybe it was a disagreement with a loved one, a misstep at work, or even a moment of defensiveness in a casual conversation. Now ask yourself, how could humility have changed my approach? What might I have learned if I'd been willing to admit my mistake? By reflecting on these questions, you begin to build the habit of approaching life with openness and grace. Epictetus reminds us, no great thing is created suddenly. Humility is a practice, one that requires patience, self-awareness, and a willingness to embrace imperfection. So the next time you feel pride rising, take a moment to pause and ask, what would humility look like here? By embracing this Stoic virtue, you're not just mastering your emotions, you're cultivating a deeper sense of connection, growth, and peace. After all, as the Stoics believed, true strength lies not in never falling, but in having the humility to rise again. How do your actions impact those around you? It's a question that invites us to look beyond ourselves and consider the ripple effects of what we do. The Stoics believed that true fulfillment comes not from isolating ourselves, but from connecting with and contributing to others. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, often reflected on this idea, writing, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." In other words, our well-being is deeply intertwined with the well-being of those around us. Serving others isn't just an act of kindness, it's a path to emotional resilience and a meaningful life. At its core, the Stoic emphasis on community is about recognizing our interconnectedness. We're not meant to navigate life alone. We thrive when we support and uplift one another. Think about it. When you lend a hand to someone in need, whether it's through volunteering, offering advice, or simply being present, you're not just helping them, you're enriching your own life. The act of giving creates a sense of purpose and belonging, reminding us that we're part of something larger than ourselves. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: "You exist as a part of a whole, and your actions should contribute to the well-being of that whole." When we contribute to others, we strengthen not only our communities but also our own emotional well-being. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine a friend is going through a tough time. Maybe they've lost their job or are dealing with a personal loss. Instead of offering generic advice, you take the time to listen deeply, to understand their struggles, and to offer meaningful support. This act of compassion doesn't just help your friend, it also deepens your sense of connection and fulfillment. The Stoics saw this as a form of emotional resilience. By focusing on others, we shift our attention away from our own worries and find strength in the act of giving. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of the importance of community, writing, "What injures the hive injures the bee." When we neglect our responsibilities to others, we harm not only them but also ourselves. This isn't about martyrdom or self-sacrifice. It's about understanding that our actions have consequences, and that by contributing to the well-being of others, we create a more harmonious and fulfilling life for ourselves. Whether it's volunteering at a local shelter, mentoring a colleague, or simply being a good listener, every act of service adds value to the world around us. So here's a challenge for you today. Identify one way you can contribute to your community. It doesn't have to be grand or time-consuming. It could be as simple as sending a thoughtful message to a friend, helping a neighbor with a task, or donating to a cause you care about. By taking this small step, you're not just making a difference in someone else's life, you're also nurturing your own emotional resilience and sense of purpose. After all, as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best way to avenge yourself is to not be like the one who harmed you. When we choose to give rather than take, to uplift rather than tear down, we embody the Stoic ideal of a life well lived. So take a moment today to ask yourself, how can I contribute to the well-being of those around me? The answer might just lead you to a deeper sense of connection, fulfillment, and peace. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but acting despite it. This is the essence of the Stoic virtue of courage, a quality that goes far beyond physical bravery or daring feats. For the Stoics, courage was about facing life's uncertainties with integrity, standing firm in the face of adversity, and choosing to act in alignment with your values, even when it's uncomfortable or risky. As Seneca once wrote, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. This idea reminds us that courage isn't just for grand, heroic moments. It's woven into the fabric of our everyday lives, from navigating difficult conversations to pursuing goals that scare us. At its core, courage is a form of resilience. It's the ability to confront fear, doubt, or discomfort and move forward anyway. The Stoics believed that challenges aren't obstacles to avoid, they're opportunities to strengthen our character and deepen our understanding of ourselves. Seneca often reflected on this, writing, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." When we act courageously, we're not just overcoming external challenges, we're building the inner strength to handle whatever life throws our way. Let's make this tangible with an example. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague presents an idea that you strongly disagree with. speaking up might feel intimidating, especially if the group seems to support the idea. But courage invites you to respectfully voice your perspective, not to cause conflict, but to contribute to a better outcome. This kind of courage isn't about being fearless, it's about valuing truth and integrity over comfort or approval. The Stoics saw courage as a choice, one that requires clarity and self-awareness. Seneca taught, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." In other words, the fear we feel isn't the problem, it's our hesitation to act despite it. By embracing courage, we shift from being passive observers of our lives to active participants, shaping our destiny with intention and purpose. Here's a reflective prompt to bring this to life. Think about a time when you acted courageously, even if it felt small or insignificant at the time. Maybe it was standing up for someone, taking a risk in your career, or even admitting a mistake. What did you learn from that experience? How did it shape your confidence or resilience? By reflecting on these moments, you begin to see courage not as a rare gift, but as a skill you can cultivate and grow. So, here's a challenge for you today. Identify one area in your life where fear might be holding you back, whether it's a difficult conversation, a personal goal, or even a habit you've been avoiding. What would it look like to take one small, courageous step forward? By choosing courage, even in the smallest ways, you're not just facing challenges, you're building the resilience to thrive in the face of them. After all, as Seneca reminds us, the greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. And every act of courage, no matter how small, is a step toward a stronger, more authentic version of yourself. How often do you hold on to grudges, replaying past hurts in your mind like a broken record? It's a heavy burden to carry, isn't it? The Stoics understood this deeply, and they offered a powerful antidote, the practice of forgiveness. Not as a way to excuse wrongdoing, but as a means to free ourselves from the emotional weight of resentment. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, put it bluntly: forgive others for their faults and forgive yourself for your own. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, isn't about forgetting or condoning. It's about reclaiming your peace and moving forward with clarity. At its core, forgiveness is an act of self-liberation. Think about it. When we hold on to anger or resentment, we're not punishing the person who hurt us, we're punishing ourselves. The Stoics believed that by clinging to grudges, we give others power over our emotions, allowing their actions to dictate our inner state long after the event has passed. Forgiveness, then, is about taking back that power. It's about choosing to let go of what's already happened, not because it was okay, but because carrying it no longer serves you. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. By forgiving, we shift our focus from what we can't change to what we can, our response. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine someone in your past hurt you deeply. Maybe it was a betrayal, a harsh word, or even a moment of neglect. At first, the pain was raw and anger felt justified. But as time passed, holding on to that resentment only drained your energy and kept you stuck in the past. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to reconcile with the person or pretend the hurt didn't happen. It simply means you choose to release the emotional grip it has on you. As Seneca wisely noted, to be wronged is nothing unless you continue to remember it. By forgiving, you're not erasing the past, you're creating space for peace and growth in the present. The Stoics saw forgiveness as a form of strength, not weakness. It's the ability to rise above the pain and choose a path that aligns with your values and well-being. Epictetus taught, no person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have, and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have. Forgiveness is a way of putting your emotional energy to good use, rather than squandering it on bitterness or regret. It's about reclaiming your power to live fully, even in the face of past wounds. Here's a reflective prompt to help you practice this. Think about one person in your life who you need to forgive, whether it's someone else or even yourself. It might be a small slight or a deep hurt. Now ask yourself, what am I holding on to and how is it affecting me? What would it feel like to let it go? This isn't about excusing their actions or denying your pain. It's about choosing to release the emotional burden so you can move forward with greater clarity and peace. Epictetus reminds us, you become what you give your attention to. When we choose forgiveness, we're not just healing old wounds, we're creating the foundation for a more resilient and intentional way of living. So take a moment today to reflect, who do you need to forgive and what would it feel like to release that weight? By embracing the Stoic practice of forgiveness, you're not just freeing yourself from the past, you're opening the door to a future filled with greater peace, purpose, and possibility. How often do you overindulge in something? Maybe it's scrolling through social media for hours, binge watching your favorite show, or even overworking yourself to the point of burnout. We've all been there, caught in the cycle of excess, chasing short-term satisfaction at the expense of long-term well-being. The Stoics recognized this tendency and offered a powerful antidote, the virtue of temperance. At its core, temperance is about moderation, not as a form of restriction, but as a path to balance and freedom. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, put it this way: "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." In other words, temperance isn't about denying yourself, it's about finding fulfillment in what's enough. Temperance fosters balance by helping us align our actions with our values. Think about it, when we overindulge, whether it's in food, entertainment, or even work, we often feel drained, distracted, or disconnected. But when we practice moderation, we create space for clarity and intentionality. Seneca often reflected on this, writing, "Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We have been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them." Temperance invites us to pause and ask, is this serving me? Is this aligned with how I want to live? By doing so, we reclaim our power to choose rather than being swept away by impulse or habit. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you've been spending hours each day glued to your phone, endlessly scrolling through social media. At first, it feels like a harmless distraction, but over time, you notice it's draining your energy and pulling you away from what truly matters. Temperance doesn't mean cutting out social media entirely. It means setting boundaries that allow you to engage with it mindfully. Maybe it's limiting your screen time to 30 minutes a day or designating specific times to check your phone. By practicing moderation, you're not just reducing distractions, you're creating space for more meaningful activities like reading, connecting with loved ones, or simply being present. The Stoics saw temperance as a form of self-mastery. It's the ability to resist short-term temptations in favor of long-term well-being. Seneca often emphasized this, teaching, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" By practicing moderation, we train ourselves to find contentment in simplicity rather than constantly chasing more. So, how can you start practicing temperance in your own life? Here's a reflective prompt to get you started. Think about one area where you tend to overindulge, whether it's screen time, overeating, or even overcommitting yourself. Now ask yourself, what would moderation look like in this area? How can I create boundaries that support my well-being? By taking this first step, you're not just practicing temperance, you're reclaiming your ability to live with intention and balance. Seneca's wisdom reminds us, the greatest wealth is a poverty of desires. When we embrace temperance, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of wanting and find peace in the present moment. So take a moment today to reflect. What's one area of your life where you could practice moderation? By cultivating temperance, you're not just mastering your habits, you're creating the foundation for a more intentional, fulfilling way of living. How do you make decisions when emotions run high? It's a challenge we've all faced, whether it's in a heated argument, a moment of temptation, or even a high-stakes situation at work. Emotions can cloud our judgment, pulling us toward impulsive reactions rather than thoughtful choices. But the Stoics believed there's a way to cut through the noise: wisdom. More than just knowledge or intelligence, wisdom is the ability to see clearly, to act with intention, and to align our decisions with what truly matters. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. In other words, wisdom shapes not just what we think, but how we act and ultimately who we become. At its core, wisdom is about perspective. It's the ability to step back from the heat of the moment and ask, what's the wise choice here? The Stoics saw wisdom as a guiding force, one that tempers our impulses and helps us navigate life's complexities with clarity and purpose. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." When we let wisdom guide us, we're not just reacting to life, we're shaping it, one thoughtful decision at a time. Let's bring this to life with a practical example. Imagine you're at work and a colleague criticizes your idea in front of the team. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself, to argue, or even to lash out. But wisdom invites you to pause. Instead of reacting impulsively, you take a breath and ask yourself, what's really happening here? Is this criticism valid? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my values? By engaging your rational mind, you shift from a place of emotional reactivity to one of thoughtful response. This isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about letting wisdom guide them so you can act with intention rather than impulsiveness. The Stoics believed that wisdom isn't just a trait we're born with, it's a skill we can cultivate. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, challenges aren't just obstacles, they're opportunities to practice wisdom. Every difficult conversation, every tough decision, every moment of uncertainty is a chance to refine our ability to see clearly and act wisely. Over time, these small acts of wisdom add up, shaping us into more thoughtful, resilient, and intentional individuals. So, how can you start practicing wisdom in your own life? Here's a reflective prompt to get you started. Think about a recent decision you made, whether it was big or small. Did you approach it with wisdom, or did emotions take the wheel? Now, imagine how you might handle it differently if you applied the Stoic principles of clarity and intention. By reflecting on these moments, you begin to build the habit of pausing, assessing, and choosing the wise path, even in the midst of life's chaos. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one. When we let wisdom guide our actions, we're not just making better decisions, we're becoming better versions of ourselves. So, the next time you find yourself at a crossroads, take a moment to pause and ask, what's the wise choice here? By embracing the Stoic emphasis on wisdom, you're not just navigating life's challenges, you're mastering them, one thoughtful step at a time. Resilience is the art of rising after every fall. It's not about avoiding failure or hardship, it's about how you respond when life knocks you down. The Stoics understood this deeply, and they saw resilience not as a trait reserved for the extraordinary, but as a skill anyone could cultivate. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound voices, put it this way: difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In other words, adversity isn't something to fear, it's the very thing that shapes us into stronger, more capable versions of ourselves. Resilience, then, isn't just about enduring, it's about thriving, even in the face of life's most daunting challenges. At its core, resilience is about perspective. The Stoics believed that setbacks aren't personal failures, they're opportunities to learn, grow, and refine our character. Think about it. When you face a difficult situation, you have a choice. You can let it overwhelm you, or you can use it as a stepping stone to build emotional strength. Seneca often reflected on this, writing, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." By pausing and reflecting on our challenges, we create space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This shift in mindset transforms adversity from a source of pain into a catalyst for growth. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine you've been working toward a goal, maybe it's a career milestone, a personal project, or even a fitness target, and despite your best efforts, you fall short. Your first reaction might be disappointment, frustration, or even self-doubt, but here's where resilience comes in. Instead of letting the setback define you, you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to improve? By reframing the situation, you shift from feeling defeated to feeling empowered. This isn't just optimism, it's a deliberate choice to rise stronger, no matter what life throws your way. Seneca's teachings remind us we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Often, the fear of failure or the pain of a setback is worse than the setback itself. When we embrace resilience, we strip those fears of their power. We realize that failure isn't the end, it's a beginning, a chance to start again with greater wisdom and determination. This mindset doesn't just help us bounce back, it helps us move forward with purpose. So, how can you start building resilience in your own life? Here's a reflective prompt to guide you. Think about a recent challenge or setback you've faced. It could be something small, like a missed deadline, or something bigger, like a personal loss. Now, ask yourself, how did I respond? Did I let it define me, or did I use it as an opportunity to grow? By reflecting on these moments, you begin to see resilience not as a rare gift, but as a practice, one that you can strengthen with every challenge you face. Seneca once wrote, "The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it." Resilience isn't just about surviving life's storms, it's about learning to dance in the rain. So the next time you face a setback, remember, you have the power to rise, to learn, and to grow. Resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you build, one fall, one rise, and one step forward at a time. The journey through these 28 dynamic Stoic approaches has been nothing short of transformative. Together, they form a toolkit for mastering emotional reactions, offering clarity and strength in the face of life's chaos. From understanding the dichotomy of control to embracing Amor Fati, loving our fate, each principle builds on the next, creating a foundation of resilience, presence, and intentionality. These aren't just abstract ideas, they're practical strategies designed to help you navigate uncertainty, overcome setbacks, and find calm in the storm. At the heart of Stoicism lies a simple yet profound truth. We may not control the world around us, but we can always control how we respond to it. Whether it's practicing gratitude to reframe our perspective, using silence to reclaim our power, or cultivating wisdom to guide our decisions, these approaches empower us to live with purpose and peace. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest voices, summed it up beautifully. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. These principles aren't just for philosophers or ancient rulers, they're for anyone seeking to live a more grounded, intentional life. Imagine facing a difficult conversation with calm instead of anger, or turning a setback into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. These are the everyday victories that Stoicism offers, the small but powerful shifts that add up to a life of greater emotional mastery. So, what's next? It's time to take these practices off the screen and into your life. Start small. Choose one principle that resonates with you and apply it today. Maybe it's pausing before reacting, practicing gratitude, or reframing a challenge as an opportunity. Every step you take is a step toward greater resilience and peace. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What color will yours be? By embracing these Stoic approaches, you're not just mastering your emotions, you're shaping a life of purpose, clarity, and strength. Now it's your turn. Which of these Stoic principles will you try first? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how these practices are making a difference in your life. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more insights on Stoicism and living with intention. Together, let's build a community of resilience, wisdom, and growth. The journey is just